Thank you. Welcome everybody to the January 23rd special meeting of the town board to consider a bond resolution for a municipal broadband project. And I'll start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, we do normally start our meetings with privilege of the floor. So, I will open the meeting and offer privilege of the floor. Nobody signed up on the sign-up sheet here.
We don't know what you're gonna say, so we don't know what we want to respond to.
Well, we have an agenda out there. So, anyway,
I looked today and I didn't
that's
find
fine.
the agenda on the internet.
But I do have a person in Zoom with his yellow Zoom hand up, so call on the cams.
Hi, it's
Hello.
Barbara Tom. So, hi, thanks. I had some questions. One, the first part is just how many households are there in Caroline total, and how many don't have any internet, and how many don't have a good internet? That's the first part of my question. And then I'll also just say that we have fiber that we really like, and we consider ourselves kind of like far out there, but we do have really good fiber. And so the second part of my question is there an effort to focus on the households that don't have any internet or good internet? And if so, what is that number and why would it cost $6.5 million?
So I'll answer what I can from memory. I can't answer how many telephone poles there are in Caroline. This project is the result of a grant from the state to serve all underserved and unserved locations in Caroline. The project's intention, that's what the funding was based on. When we applied for the grant, it was initially a smaller portion, and the state asked the team, what would it cost for you to do the entire town? And we told them, and they said, okay, we'll give you that amount. And so that's what we're doing. The project will pass and will serve all residents in Caroline. So the project is ultimately it will serve everyone. It will offer reliable, affordable, high-speed internet for all residents in Caroline.
Can I ask a question in regards to that?
So hang on, I want to finish with the speaker here. So I could get back to you with exact numbers, but that's the purpose of the project.
Could I add something?
You may.
I just want to make sure everyone knows that this money, we've got money from the state, this like $6.5 million. What we have to do is when we spend the money from the project, we have to pay and then we get reimbursed. So the money is going to be reimbursed from the state into the bond.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that. Or going,
So-
in town is going into debt $6.5 million. It's not like that.
Yeah, so the reason we're getting bond money is because we're gonna need a lot of money up front to buy equipment. And put the project in. We don't, and these state grants are always, at least in my experience, they're always reimbursement grants. So we have to pay first and then we get reimbursed. So as Kate said,
Is there any risk? What if the project isn't finished? Then with the town, and the town has spent $6 million, and for some reason, it's not finished. Will the town still get reimbursed?
the project is structured in milestones, so there will be reimbursed along the way as we go.
So what's the maximum exposure to the town has in terms of laying out money and waiting for reimbursement?
$6,450,000
Okay.
as stated in the resolution.
Just going back to the original question, is there a way to know how many households need this?
Yes, I have that number. I just don't have it in my head, but we do know how many served, unserved and underserved households there are. Do you remember what that is, Kate?
I don't remember right off. But that was the
You
purpose.
guys wanna look
That
it
was,
up? There's your engineering report.
I don't
It
write
doesn't-
it right now.
I don't think it matters right now.
Yeah.
And is this supposed to be a question and answer?
No.
So it's not, this isn't supposed to be a question and answer.
Yeah, so again, the privilege of the floor is to offer information and then the board will discuss the resolution. Or question.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
So like when you say it's gonna serve the whole town, like if our road already has fiber, are they gonna dig up our road again to lay another fiber line in? What does it mean to serve everybody if it's up in places where it already exists?
It will serve your location.
But not dig up the road.
They're not gonna dig up the road though.
Oh, yeah,
No.
no. So, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
So
They're not gonna replace it.
a lot of the infrastructure, the cable is aerial on existing poles. That's what we're doing right now with permitting. And then some will be underground, and that's with directional drilling for the most part. So it's minimally disruptive.
And no one will be like forced to take the town broadband. You can stay with your own
That's right.
if you want to.
So you'll have another option.
You'll have another option.
No, you know, she just answered. I just want to know how your system interfaces with like point broadband.
It's
Does it
different,
make sense?
it's separate,
Different.
it's separate.
Huh?
It's a separate municipal broadband system. It's
They're
not,
building a complete system.
So
Okay.
forget the installation. Who's gonna run it?
Trident Fiber,
Who?
Trident Fiber.
And they're gonna set up a business to run it with the technicians and the highly paid
Yes,
union people?
yes,
And you're gonna compete with a private
yes,
company?
yes, we are.
Who's speaking for the record?
Can you state your name for the clerk?
Oh, my name is Roland Snyder and I'm a resident of Caroline.
You don't need to be, but.
But we really need to have privilege of the floor
Yeah.
structure.
We do, it isn't gonna just, if we could have an information session later to go through some of this, but
Yeah.
but right now, this is privilege of the floor. If you have questions or comments, we'll try to answer
Don't
them.
mind the answer, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I raise my hand?
Tony,
I heard, Mark, I just heard, a couple of, so I'm just interested in what you're doing, I understand.
You gotta speak up.
Yeah, well,
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. So,
I'm sure you can.
but,
I'll
and
give it a try.
people listening on Zoom want to be able to
So-
hear you.
From what I understand, from what I just got, is there's, the state will pay 100%.
Yeah.
reimbursed 100%.
No, well, actually, the town has, it's about a $48,000 local share. And we are,
That's a very small percentage.
a small, so it's 48,000, and then we used our ARPA funds as a part of the local share too, $470,000,
You know what that percentage is?
10%.
10%. Six and a half million. So you have to front the money. How does that affect our tax bill?
So the fronting the money will be done by the bond. In the resolution, the aspects that can affect your tax bill are the interest payments and the local share that I just described. So that would be the 48,000.
So you know what that is.
Yeah.
You know what the percentage increase in per 100,000 assessed value, what is that percentage?
I haven't calculated that.
Can I just,
Yeah.
so that, I mean, that's a very, very good question. The percentage that we're talking about will be interest on the bond at the level spent. It is unlikely that we will end up spending. It'll be unlikely that we will end up bonding for the entire $6.5 million because we are reimbursed as we go along. So it's much more likely than in the end run, what our resolution is for that to be the cap. So that our representatives tell us that at the end run, it's much more likely to be roughly half of that because we're doing it incrementally, right? So that we will bond incrementally and then get reimbursed. And it will go like this, the cost to the taxpayers, the cost to the town, not the taxpayers, the cost to the town, if we did the entire 6.5 million, I believe the figure is $200,000. We're not gonna be likely to do the entire figure, it's probably gonna be half of that. So let's say that it ends up being $100,000. That's not $100,000 annually. That also will be graduated by year. So in any given year for this interest, we will be probably paying roughly, let's say, $30,000 to $50,000 in a year. That will come out of our budget. As the budget currently stands, we could actually sustain that pretty much within our current budget tax cap. So it's not likely that too much of this will be passed on to the taxpayers. There will be some, but this is understood as a public service for the community, especially for the underserved communities, so that I think that this is a very, very good, what should you say? Investment, especially public investment for the public good. But what's difficult to understand about this is it isn't just one chunk.
It's not difficult.
It's good.
It's not difficult. What's difficult is that you don't know what the cost is. Somebody, whoever plans this, should know it to a T before it started. You should know, and you also know how that affects the tax bill, whether you have the money in your budget or if you're going to have to increase the tax levy to help out, whatever that little bit is, whether it's $200,000 a year, whatever that is. Before it starts, you're going to know that. You should know that. This all should be laid out.
So first of all, the numbers that Tim posed, those are preliminary. We're working through that. We actually may next year so we have to have this done by the December 31st of 2026.
The project.
The whole project.
So,
Done.
2025,
When
so-
you say done, not done, the build of it, but.
No, the build of it,
No,
no,
the plant.
the construction.
the construction.
Construction.
So
So they're only.
that's one reason that we held this special meeting tonight, because we are gonna need this bond money soon to keep the project moving properly. We will need to do a lot of capital purchases for the project in 2025, so we may have a lot of expenses. We have it capped. We have detailed, Hunt Engineering is helping us, not helping us, they're, doing this project, have detailed equipment and labor spreadsheets with costs all worked out. So and so we do have, and we have a bond counsel helping us with the bonding process. So we know the approximate cost to the taxpayers of Caroline. I want to point out that maybe in response to your comment, Roland, this is a nonprofit municipal broadband project that will offer affordable internet. So we expect to be able to provide affordable service to the residents of Caroline. So sure, I see this as a true town project that will have ultimately will have lasting benefits to the community for a service that really nowadays everybody needs. And from the time I came supervisor and when Don was supervisor, that's what we heard all the time. We need this.
I'm concerned about the operating of the system.
So we have an engineering firm.
A brand new business. Okay, and businesses can fall on their face.
So that's a different question than the bond right
That
now.
is,
And
We're talking about spending money, putting capital for a system, but if the system isn't economically viable
This-
to run,
that
then it's
actually,
all for naught.
okay. I'd be glad to talk to you about that, but I think that's a separate
just
question.
to,
right now.
so as Matt pointed out, we did do, we positioned ourselves very well for this project. So over the last couple of years, we did a feasibility study with Hunt Engineering for a broadband project in Caroline. And then submitted this grant and got full funding of $9 million from the state to implement it. So I think we have a wonderful opportunity here to do something that's fairly unique. And we are the beneficiaries of the efforts of our colleagues in Dryden who have set this up very carefully. So
I understand it's not a question answered. As the numbers shift, you said 9 million here. That's the full grant
That's
that Dryden got
yes,
for Dryden Fiber.
right.
The Caroline share, you're still looking at 6.5,
That's right.
6.45.
Yeah.
And since our last meeting, does he have more numbers? Because he didn't seem like, if that was the guy from Hunt, we talked with the fire hall, he didn't really have a handle on numbers and how this would really look.
Numbers of what?
Profit, cash, cost, where, how the money was gonna be handled. I asked a lot of pointed questions from that night and he had no answers. So hopefully that's been a little more fleshed out and developed, because neither you nor him had answers that night.
So all I can say to that is they have carefully set the offering for Dryden Fiber. As of now, the customer enrollment in Dryden are supporting operational costs. And so we'll be going, we're just getting started, so I'm super excited about it. Done.
So I have a question and a comment. So my question is, if you adopt this resolution tonight, is this subject to a permissive referendum?
Yes,
And what's the timeline for that?
20 days.
20 days.
It's stated in the resolution.
And then my comment is that you had mentioned that there'd be interest costs associated with this bond. And I would have to say that putting them on the property tax, we'll try to find another way to do it. because that's the most regressive tax there is. And this project will be charging a fee for the service. And I would recommend that when you're negotiating with Dragon Fiber, that you include the interest costs the town has incurred in that fee structure, so that the taxpayers are held, not, they don't have to pay for it out of the property tax, it's paid for by fees.
Okay,
I get the 48,000 and you've already made the commitment for that, but if it's possible to build that in as well. What we find is that local governments can get revenue from fees. We should be trying to use that as a revenue source as opposed to property tax.
we can consider that. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess I have just a statement on this.
Okay,
What you're proposing to do is have the town of Caroline do a home equity loan to build this, get repaid, and we're responsible for the interest at this point on it. In a nutshell, for the simple ones who don't understand bonding and all that. Does that
I
sound-
wouldn't call people simple if they
Well,
don't understand it.
some
Okay?
people
Let's-
are-
I think what you
I
said
don't
is
think we need
correct.
to be insulting.
So what,
Well, I am
Then-
simple.
so I think if I'm following you, you're saying much of what Don said, so,
Yes.
correct. Thank you.
Do you have to hold a permissive referendum, or that's part of this, or is it? So you will be holding one to vote?
We don't hold it. We pass the resolution and it's stated in the resolution. There's a 20-day period for a challenge.
Okay.
Based on the criteria stated in the resolution. I will read the resolution shortly when we put it forward, so. Jack,
So I know, it was stated that this isn't a Q&A. I kind of thought it was going to be a Q&A. I don't know when did we have a chance for a Q&A that I missed already on this?
we didn't schedule a Q&A.
So I find that, I just think if we're gonna, no matter if we're getting paid back, when the town's gonna borrow twice its budget, we should probably have a Q&A. And I think when we come and ask what I think are pretty basic, like the two questions I have were how many underserved people there are. Y'all should probably have that answer at hand, you know?
Yep.
And how much we're gonna have to pay in interest, we should have that specific answer at hand. And then not say to people, this isn't a Q&A when they ask pretty reasonable questions at a special hearing about this.
Well, it's a special hearing.
Right.
It means that it's not a Q&A.
Yeah, like we should have had a Q&A first.
Should have had that first, we had a chance.
I get-
I mean, we're talking about not insulting people, but
I get your
we're
point.
insulting us for asking
Yeah.
pretty standard questions.
Yeah.
At what seems like a pretty big deal. So I feel like we're being insulted a little bit by saying, don't have a Q&A, at what probably should have been a Q&A.
So I just want to say it was discussed in the last board meeting. There has been ongoing discussion of
Okay.
this. And that was public,
Okay, cool.
knowledge that we were talking about this, and then we have the public hearing. The other thing I want to make clear, we are not borrowing
I'm
six and a
with you.
half million.
That part I've got.
You just said we
Okay.
were borrowing twice the amount, so that's not.
No,
what we're
not
doing.
borrowing,
That's the
bonding.
cap. We're bonding. We're not even that's the cap,
I see,
but we're not
gonna go there.
going there.
Okay,
I mean, that was a concern when I saw it too. It's like, well, we don't need that much.
right.
We're gonna be spending the money and getting reimbursed at different steps along the next year and a half, 2 years, a little less than 2 years now. To be able to get this done in a timely manner. Everything has to be built by the end of December 2026.
I mean, I think it's all a good idea. The numbers pop and I just think we should have specific answers to these.
Yep.
To these questions.
I'll just add that we did have, so it's now been over a year when Hunt Engineering did make a public presentation about all of these details to the public.
Mhm.
We just don't have the report right here with us, but they laid all of that out, underserved customers, number of customers, et cetera. So that information is available. We just didn't bring the report with us.
I don't have a report on me and I don't want to just try to remember the number.
Sure.
Also, last Wednesday at the meeting, we had some Dragon Fiber who answered lots of questions.
Okay,
So if
okay.
you want to look at that,
Sure,
that'll give you a good basis.
okay,
That's
thank
not
you,
the word I want.
Your points are well taken.
thanks.
Cal, were you gonna say something?
There's a couple, sorry, there's a couple hands on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, Cal says, he defers. Go ahead, Jesse. Oh.
Oh,
what did I-
Hi, my name is Romina. I'm new to the town of Caroline, but I have met Mark and Jonathan already. My question is regarding the infrastructure that's gonna be built for the internet connections. I was wondering if it is like underground cables that will have like hard lines to connect, or if it is, for example, Wi-Fi towers. I'm just curious about what will it be, investment going to, and what's going to get built?
Sure. It's a combination of cables on utility poles, on telephone poles, and underground burial where needed. So there's no there's no broadcast, no towers, no.
it's all optic fiber.
So then the connections would be like they would have to plug in. There are plug-in connections on the homes.
That's right.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Sure, thanks. Milt, do you have a question?
Calling
Yeah, you wanna?
it. Just when you mentioned that it's gonna be affordable, do you have any idea how much, like per month?
Yes, the basic offering now is $45 a month for 400 up and down speeds.
It's more expensive than.
Guaranteed? Is that, I mean, what if? Is that guaranteed for how long? When you say it'll be affordable?
Oh, well, that's our starting offering. Yeah.
I mean, I think both of us, Mark and you and we're both using Hafele now, aren't we? We have Hafele. Do you have Hafele?
No.
I think we pay $49.
I have Frontier.
Yes. You have Frontier?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, we have Hafele, we have fiber. We pay, I think, $49 or $50. And I would say we've been pretty, 45 would be a little savings, but Hafele's been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah, but they're
I
not
know that.
everybody. I would love to have Hafele. I can't get it. So,
Well,
great, good for you.
I'm just saying that it doesn't strike me that this 45 is that affordable. I mean, it depends, right? And is there any guarantee that it's going to stay 45?
Well, I think the only guarantee is that we are committed to, we're a nonprofit. And if we don't keep it affordable, then it would fail.
There's people in the room that think he's wrong. There's people that live in Caroline in this room that pay twice as much for terrible internet, that live in like the nice part, like the civilization part of town that can't get good internet. For twice as much. So I just respectfully disagree with his assessment of the affordability part. $45, but that kind of internet sounds excellent.
Okay,
I'd like to suggest everybody take a look at the Dryden Fiber website and see what's offered, and you can see the map and the work they've been doing over the last couple of years. And we decided as a town, on the board, to work with Dryden Fiber because of the good work they've been doing. And we joined up with them, got the grant written, we got the grant, which was just fantastic. The whole idea is, the goal is not to make a profit. The goal is to make this an affordable service for everybody in the town. And once we can get the price lower, they're going to go lower, right? They have to go up a little bit. They're going to go up a little bit, but they're not making a profit. And that's what makes us able to go onto a road with one house or two houses whereas people wanting to make a profit need 20. So take a look at Dryden Fiber and you can get a lot of detail. It's really amazing what they've been doing.
Great. Okay, thank you, Kate. I'm gonna close public hearing and open,
Was the,
close privilege of the floor, yeah. And I did see that, I think in the posting, this was listed as a public hearing, but it's not. It's just a special meeting of the town board. So with that, I will offer a resolution authorizing the construction of a town-wide broadband service system for the town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $6,450,000 and authorizing the issuance of up to that amount of serial bonds of said town to pay the cost thereof. Whereas as to the purpose described herein, the Empire State Development Corporation has been determined to constitute a type 2 action as defined under regulations of the state of New York, promulgated pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, which by definition will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. And whereas the capital project herein described has been determined to be a type 1 action pursuant to the regulations of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the implementation of which, as proposed, the town board has determined will not have any significant adverse impact on the environment. And whereas in the working to implement reliable and equitable deployment of Broadband Act of 2022, constituting Part MMM of Chapter 58 of the laws of 2022, the Broadband Act, the state legislature found and declared that access to high-speed, reliable, and affordable broadband is essential for education, economic growth, and full participation in civic life, and that the benefits of broadband access should be available to all. And whereas in said Broadband Act, the general municipal law was amended by adding a new Section 99Y thereof, authorizing any county, city, town, or village to establish, construct, and maintain broadband and related telecommunication infrastructure. And whereas the town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, has determined to provide the availability of broadband service as defined in the Act to all residents of the town. And whereas it is now desired to authorize the financing of such capital project, now therefore be it resolved by the affirmative vote of not less than 2/3 of the total voting strength of the town board of the town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the construction of a town-wide broadband service system for the town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, including original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus, appurtenances, and other incidental improvements and expenses in connection therewith, is hereby authorized at a maximum estimated cost of $6,450,000. Section 2, the plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is by issuance of not exceeding $6,450,000 with bonds of said town, hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law, provided however that to the extent that any grants in aid are received for such purpose, the amount of obligations to be issued pursuant to this resolution shall be reduced dollar for dollar. Section 3, it is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific object or purpose is 10 years pursuant to subdivision 109 of paragraph 8 of section 11 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of bonds herein authorized will exceed 5 years. Section 4, the faith and credit of said town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of the principal and of interest on such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. There shall annually be levied on all of the taxable real property of said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal and of interest of such bonds as the same become due and payable. Section 5, subject to the provisions of local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of the bonds herein authorized including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the town supervisor, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, forms, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said town supervisor, consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 6. All other matters except as provided herein relating to such bonds, including determining whether to issue such bonds having substantially level or declining annual debt service, and all matters related thereto, prescribing whether manual or facsimile signatures shall appear on said bonds, prescribing the method for recording of ownership of said bonds, appointing the fiscal agent or agents for said bonds, providing for the printing and delivery of said bonds, and if said bonds are to be executed in the name of the town by facsimile signature of the town supervisor, providing for the manual countersignature of a fiscal agent or of a designated official of the town. The date, denominations, maturities, interest payment dates, place or places of payment, and also including the consolidation with other issues shall be determined by the town supervisor. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided for in section 52 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and contain such recitals in addition to those required by section 52 of the local finance law, as the town supervisor shall determine. Section 7, this resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for the purposes of Treasury regulation, section 1.150-2, other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or are reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. Section 8, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if 1, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, or 2, the provisions of law which should be complied with at the date of publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 9, this resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in summary form in the Ithaca Journal, the official newspaper of said town designated for such purpose, together with a notice of the town clerk in substantially the form set forth in paragraph A of section 81 of the local finance law. And the following page is the certification of the town clerk of the resolution. And then the final page is the legal notice of estoppel. The bond resolution, a summary of which is published herewith, has been adopted on January 23rd, 2025. And the validity of the obligations authorized by such resolution may hereafter be contested only if such obligations were authorized for an object or purpose for which the town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, is not authorized to expend money, or if the provisions of law which should have been complied with as of the date of publication of this notice were not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of publication of this notice, or such obligations were authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution, which I already read in the resolution. So I will just read the summary at the end. Bond resolution dated January 23rd, 2025, a resolution authorizing the construction of a town-wide broadband service system for the town of Caroline, Tompkins County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $6.45 million, and authorizing the issuance up to that amount of serial bonds of said town to pay the cost thereof. Specific object or purpose: construction of a town-wide broadband service system. Period of probable usefulness: 10 years. Maximum estimated cost: $6,450,000. amount of obligations to be issued, the same amount of serial bonds to be reduced by any grants in aid received, which we have received. Seeker status, type 2 action per Empire State Development Corporation determination. Town seeker determination, coordinated type 1 action, negative declaration, seeker compliance materials on file at the town clerk's office where they may be inspected during regular hours. I move that resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Tim. And discussion. Questions?
No, I guess, I'd like to say how important it is to keep the project moving. And we need to have this bond in place to be able to keep the project moving, get it finished by the deadline. So I support this bond.
And I think that this is a great opportunity for the town of Caroline to have been awarded this grant by New York State, which really is building the infrastructure for us to have townwide broadband after years and years and years of efforts to get the public sector to provide broadband to all citizens of Caroline. We have not been successful in doing that. The other advantage of this is it's going to be a not-for-profit, affordable option for the people of Caroline. But most importantly for this bond issue, this is simply to provide us with upfront cash so that we can build the system and then get reimbursed by the state along the way to the amount of the bond. So it would be much better if New York State would operate differently, so when it gives grants, to simply give the towns the cash so that they can do the business without going through this process. But that's not how New York State unfortunately operates. So it's all by reimbursement, which means the towns have to come up with the cash to do the projects that they've been awarded grants for. So I support the resolution.
I don't.
If I could just add, being the new guy, and being kind of in halfway through this process, two things that gave me kind of a positive outlook on it. One is that Dryden Fiber is already operating and having success. I think I would maybe have a different opinion if they hadn't started showing us what's possible. And the second thing is seeing the reports that I've gotten as a board member and seeing that we've been meeting many of our goals, and the ones that we haven't been meeting are very close to being met, gives me confidence that we're going to continue to move forward with this process. And maybe a third thing to add is I do appreciate that the initial push for this project was to support underserved community, and that it broadened is just a bit extra on top of that. So that's my perspective.
Thank you.
Great. Any comment on your wording before you ask that? Up for you to think about what you just said. The same thing that I asked about was that tax levy increase, which you just said that you had a right to increase it, but there was no number on it, so you could go anywhere with it. I think the board should be concerned about that. People should be concerned about that. But there isn't a number that if we increase it by 2% tax levy. There's no number.
So the tax levy is a dollar amount. I gave you a dollar amount. I gave dollar amounts.
It's not in your resolution.
Doesn't need to be in the resolution.
It's why I mean,
This is a board discussion.
Yeah.
No, it's not something you want to hear. You said it's not in there.
I disagree. I think we've been upfront about the costs. There are costs to the Caroline taxpayers. Ultimately, this is going to save Caroline taxpayers money who use
I don't disagree with you.
broadband. So, okay.
I don't.
So
just return to the board, what.
Okay.
The board is left.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
You may. Then I'm gonna call for a vote.
I had an experience with reimbursement with the state on cost share projects, and it took me 14 months to be reimbursed by the state.
Yep, I
It
get
kind
it.
of torpedoed my cash flow that year.
Well, I've administered several state-funded town projects, and
It's been better than that.
we've been successful, so
Just a comment.
thank you.
Oh, I guess the only thing I would add is I just think a lot of work has gone into this. A number of communities around the country are doing this kind of thing. It is saving people money. And I'm proud of the board for having done all this work before I got here, and I support everything that's been done. So it's, anyway.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everybody. I will just, I've already said a lot. I do appreciate folks showing up and asking questions. I do regret that I don't have the exact numbers. I would point people to the website under the projects and look at the feasibility study that we did. And if you want to contact me later, I'll get the numbers for you. We have all that. So I think this is I think it's, yeah, this project was justified by serving unserved and underserved residents in Caroline. But the really exciting thing is that it will serve everyone who wants to do it. And as Kate said, it's not mandatory. You can take it or leave it, and it's not displacing any prior service. So with that,
I have just one comment.
sorry, I'm going to call for a vote. So I would like to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The resolution is passed. I thank everybody for coming, and would be happy to talk later, not here, because there's going to be a review board meeting in 5 or 6 minutes. But if you want to follow up with me later in the office, I'd be happy to talk to you. So
I move that we adjourn.
oh yeah, seconded by Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thanks, everybody.
We need to get out of these chairs.
Yeah.